You thought disappearing quietly would save you. But some places treat silence as something even more suspicious than confession itself. That call did not need a name, because your body recognized the danger before your mind could catch up. You had packed that little bag weeks ago, but when the moment finally arrived, your hands still would not steady. Not because you were weak, but because deep down, you knew this was never just another ordinary job. You only packed the lightest things, as if less weight might somehow make the danger following you easier to outrun. The door was only one step away, yet it felt as heavy as the entire life you were leaving behind. The hallway was completely empty, and somehow that emptiness felt more threatening than hearing footsteps slowly approaching your door. When the apartment door clicked shut, you understood you had done something that place was never meant to forgive. At first, it all looked harmless, just a simple offer, made to someone who desperately needed money fast. The cash came quickly, the questions stayed small. And that is exactly how traps learn to resemble opportunity. You told yourself it would be only once. Then a second time came, and the third became easier. While you still believed you were running harmless errands, they were already teaching you exactly how obedience is. Quietly built. Every bill solved one urgent problem in front of you, while quietly tying another invisible string behind your back. Then came the moment you realized someone always seemed to know where you were, without ever saying it aloud. You started carrying that fear back home, and that was when this stopped belonging only to you anymore. By the time you understood the rules for what they were, you were already standing inside the cage. You walked as quietly as possible, not to hear danger coming, but to avoid creating any sound yourself. Even the staircase you knew by heart felt unfamiliar now, as if each step understood what you were doing. You looked through the lobby glass and wished the outside world still felt as ordinary as it had yesterday. But the second you stepped outside, you noticed a car parked too, still too early and for too long. You kept moving, pretending to be someone heading to work early, even while your heartbeat stumbled inside your chest. Your plan was not complicated. Just create distance slowly enough that nobody noticed, until it was already too late. But the simplest plans are often the first to collapse, because they depend on the rarest thing, luck. The bus arrived a few minutes late, and those few minutes were enough for panic to fill every gap. You chose a seat in the back, so you could see everyone ahead, even though you trusted none of them. In the reflection of the window, a car lingered behind the bus, and you could not tell what was real. You began counting every turn, every stoplight, every stop, as if control alone could keep your life from slipping. You got off earlier than planned, only to see whether that same car would still choose your direction. It turned the corner too, and from that moment on, you stopped calling any part of this coincidence. You did not run because running would admit fear. And you were still guarding the last pieces of composure. You entered the nearest store for light, for people, for the weak comfort of not feeling completely alone. The fluorescent light made everything appear safer, but safety now felt like nothing more than a thin coat of paint. In the security mirror, you looked small and misplaced, like someone who had already fallen out of his own life. You bought a bottle of water just to stand there longer, though your throat was far too tight to drink. The car glided past the front window and disappeared, yet somehow that made you feel even less relieved. Once suspicion settles deeply into your mind, even a quiet street begins to sound like a warning siren. You chose a small motel because it looked forgettable, old, tired, and easy for the world to overlook. You used another name and another signature, but your trembling hand still betrayed how badly you were shaking. The room fell silent after the door closed, and you realized silence had never sounded this dangerous before. Then you saw the family photo inside your wallet, and every direction of your fear suddenly changed at once. The worst part was never what they could do to you, but what could eventually happen to them. Fear stopped being about survival then, and became the knowledge that you had dragged others toward the dark with you. You wanted to call home just to hear a familiar voice, but even that felt like leaving a trail. The parking lot outside was nearly empty, yet that emptiness only gave your imagination more room to grow. You sat on the floor like a lost child, trying to keep your body still enough for your thoughts to settle. The night stretched on slowly, and you learned that sleeplessness is only the first layer of your collapse. When the phone screen lit up, you already knew no message waiting there could possibly bring anything good. Just 2 short words, yet they carried enough weight to crush the fragile hope you had carried all day. There was no detailed threat at all, because people do not explain much when fear is already doing the work. That was when the truth became simple. You had never gone far enough to truly leave them behind. You looked into the mirror and saw someone fading, not from running, but from waiting to be found. Sleep disappears first, then hunger. Then your own face begins to look like it belongs to a stranger. You stopped thinking about saving yourself then, and started thinking only about how to shield everyone else. You decided to seek help in the quietest way possible, even though you already knew the chances were thin. A gray morning, an old phone booth, and your hope now felt smaller than the little bag beside you. Inside that narrow glass booth, you realized even asking for help could become another trace pointing back to you. After a few seconds, you placed the receiver down, because any call might open the wrong door next. The wider the open space felt, the smaller you became, while the system around you remained shapeless and enormous. You once thought danger always had a face, but sometimes it is only a network assembled from silence. That was when you finally understood. You were not leaving a job. You were trying to escape a system. It did not lock you in with bars, but with habits, money, secrets, and fear stretched over time. The longer you move inside it, the more you forget what freedom once looked, sounded, or felt like. And that is the most frightening part, when the cage is no longer outside you, but already inside your mind. You left an envelope inside the station locker, a final measure in case you never managed to come back. Not to accuse anyone directly, only to keep one piece of truth from being buried beneath fear forever. You kept moving anyway, knowing motion does not guarantee safety, but staying still would certainly mean something worse. First time in hours you let yourself believe that distance might allow your lungs to loosen slightly. The screen stayed dark, and somehow that silence unsettled you far more than any ringing phone could have. Because you understood now, the worst fear is not the chase itself, but the feeling that it may never end. Some places take your freedom the moment you enter, and only let you understand that truth much later. You thought disappearing would make you free, but in systems built on fear, freedom is always the first thing taken.